Welcome to the Nerdist Podcast number 761.
This episode is brought to you by Mozilla.org, the new Firefox. Fast for good, Mozilla builds products, technology, and programs that make the internet a little bit healthier of a place. Since using it helps Mozilla grow a healthier internet for everyone, you get to do good too and contribute. Learn more and download the new Firefox 2 times faster at Mozilla.org.
This is the Nerdist Community Corkboard. One of these is we're going to settle on one jingle for that, but I can remember what it is. I always forget, so I guess until then you get a dynamic jingle. Yay! Or maybe not. This is from Joe Mazzaro. I'm a graphic designer like you guys. I'm a big advocate for making a thing, and these days that energy is channeled into a site called Pixton, Pixton, which I'm enormously proud of. Was founded by my boss Clive and his wife Dana, and it's an evolving, super customizable means of creating comics and art on the web. It can be used for fun or business. It's an entertaining way to illustrate a story, joke, or concept. And Pixton for Schools promotes reading comprehension and creative expression. We're currently in the midst of publishing some exciting new classroom-based products. And as a weird, quiet kid who benefited tremendously from an art education and found such satisfaction with his own projects, I feel like I'm getting to return the favor in a really neat, exciting way. Check out Pixton, Pixton.com for details. This is from Nerdist listener Jeremy Hauk, creator of No Wonder, an independent comic book that launched on Kickstarter today. No Wonder is a fully colored sci-fi comic book series about a 16-year-old boy asking questions in a world that has purposely removed curiosity. Written by Jeremy and illustrated by Ellis Ray III, No Wonder tackles a popular social commentary about information consumption while appreciating the romantic relationships that we have with what's unfamiliar to us. Lost meets The Matrix and a dash of Firefly in tone. That is from Jeremy Huck. No Wonder. This episode is Daniel Craig, who, I didn't know what to expect. He's a Bond. And he's also a phenomenal actor, and he's been in a lot of really great movies, so I thought, is he going to be like a serious actor guy? He was fantastic. Such a sweet, lovely dude. And as you'll see, we even, let some of Myra's Bond fanaticism trickle out throughout the episode, which was kind of adorable, because Daniel completely teased him but played with it and was really cool with it. Didn't run out screaming, didn't have a security guard drag Matt out in those cuffs that they put people in, the zip ties. So it was really a spectacular episode, and I was super honored to meet him, and Matt was over the moon about it, and I feel like we did a pretty good job of when you consider what Daniel Craig means and what he represents, I feel like we controlled the fandom pretty well, but it still leaked out enough that you could tell that we were super excited to have him on. But he was phenomenal, and Spectre is in theaters now, so listen up. Maybe he breaks some news in this podcast, maybe not. I don't know. You listen, you find out. Here is the Nerdist Podcast number 761 with Mr. Daniel Craig. Katie, please roll the thing.
Now entering Nerdist.com.
I just pushed a button.
Don't push the buttons. Katie pushes the buttons.
I shouldn't be just pushing buttons with... Hello. Welcome. Nice to see you. Chris, pleasure. Hello. Hello and goodbye.
Let's watch. Oh, thank you very much.
Do you notice the watch already? You just made Matt's day. You made his day noticing.
This is I'm out of date. This is the Skyfall watch, so.
Oh.
Man, I bet they just let you have it.
I had to work for it.
Yeah, the press tour alone from the past month, I would hope at least you would get a watch for the amount.
I don't take anything. Nothing's free, is it? So everything costs something in the end.
ACL or anything.
But this is the thing about this is that this was kind of my choice. I wanted to get a watch into the movie, obviously, because we have Amiga give us lots of money, so we have to have a watch in the movie anyway. but I wanted to use it. I wanted to make sure we used one in the movie. And I wanted to go back a little bit, and they had this what is it? I can't even see it because I've got my glasses on.
It's the Omega 300.
Thank you very much, the 300. I'm selling this well. Damn, go.
I think it makes you look cooler, actually. Which one is this?
GMT bezel.
But that's it. I wanted to put the NATO band on it. And
you did a great job with this band, by the way. I was very happy with that.
Yeah.
I got this before the movie came out, and they were telling me they're back ordered like crazy.
All
I
right,
was like, well,
good.
just get me
And now they're doing these as well. They're doing a brown version as well. So
You're going to get that one too, man?
I might. We'll see. We'll see.
He doesn't like it.
That's
I
the
can
watch.
tell. I can tell.
No, that is the one I want, but it's so hard to find right now.
You can have
Oh man!
You better give it back. Yeah. Actually, that's different. This is a slightly different version. This is the one they first brought out before they actually made the version that they're now selling. So this one's a little rarer. So you can't have that.
You cannot have that, Matt. But you can pretend for a second.
It was beautiful just to hold. Thank you, Dan.
Excuse me. I hope you're talking about the watch.
Of Daniel Craig handing you the watch, and then you could just edit out the part where he took it back.
Yeah. No one needs to know. No one needs to know.
I cannot even believe the press tour that you've been on, because we found out 2 days ago that you were going to be able to come on the podcast, and thank you.
No, pleasure.
I was performing in Kansas City and then had to go to Phoenix on Saturday and then come back and work on Sunday, and I'm like, I'm so tired from my travels. And like, oh, you were just in Mexico City, China, New York, all over Europe. Really,
it's all right. We get looked after. I can't really complain. It's like I get to stay in some nice hotels, and people are very nice to us. Beijing was quite a trip, though. I haven't spent that long in Beijing, and we did a couple of TV shows with, I think the viewership was 500 million.
Oh my God. That's Top Gear numbers.
That much?
Have you seen like British television numbers are pretty like. They go, oh, this show's a huge hit. 1.5 million people watch it. Like, wow.
Well, that's a good eighth of the country.
Of course it is. But then you just forget, and then you hear.
I think we used to have back in the day, but we only had 3 television channels. I think 25 million was like the kind of the record, which is pretty good going for 50 million people. So
yeah,
absolutely.
But we only had 3 television channels, so
until kind of recently.
Until kind of fairly recently. Yeah. I miss it. It's a shame.
Do you miss television?
I miss the fact that 3 or 4 television channels is kind of enough.
Yeah.
Is it though?
Yeah, it really is.
I think he's right.
Most of it's
we're burdened with too many choices.
I mean, the difference now, there's different platforms. So now with television, or what it accounts for, amounts for television, is that you have something that's like on Amazon or on Netflix. It's like you can have the whole thing, and they do it on the day, and you can watch the whole thing in one. So, but that doesn't really count, does it? That's not really television.
No.
I mean, essentially the platform used to define the media. So television, would define television. Film, the way it's screened, would define film, and now. It doesn't. The content itself is defined across a variety.
I was
of
just
platforms.
in London for my honeymoon, and I was.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you very much. We just got married in October.
Nice.
It was great.
Right.
I was bummed out that BBC 2 and 3 don't start showing stuff till 7 p.m. or something like that.
Oh, BBC 3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Yeah. They're kind of 3 or 4, and they're kind of the most interesting, I think, of the channels. They kind of show the most interesting stuff.
I got my bargain hunt in the afternoons. That's all I needed.
You were doing that on your honeymoon?
That's what we were saying to him. That's what we were saying to him. Listen, his wife is a wonderful, patient woman.
She really must be. Does she like bargain hunt?
Not so much.
Oh, right.
Not so much.
Matt will tell you anything about any bargain hunt that
Listen,
you could possibly.
I'm a big fan of all of them. Tim Wanicott's great. I love all my antiques experts.
Did you do some antiquing when you were there?
No, we popped into. I did go through all the guitar shops in London.
Oh, that's a good thing
That's
to
my
do.
main sort of collection of.
Do you actually
things.
play guitar?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
But he's a lefty, so it's really hard for him to find guitars.
right.
They don't make a lot of lefty
Yeah,
guitars.
they had 4 throughout all the shops. They had 4.
Do you play anything?
Guitar very, very badly. I mean, 3 or 4 chords, and
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
The problem is I can't count that well, so and that eventually becomes a problem when you're trying to sing a song or do it. But I get a big kick out of it, and I have guitars at home, and I've got thankfully friends who play beautifully, and I'm just like I just hand them the guitar.
That's very nice.
Make
nice.
sure they've got lots of musical instruments.
Is that
to
something
play.
that you're doing in between takes? I mean, like, what do you do when you're sitting in your trailer?
I don't really sit in my trailer. Not on a Bond movie. There's just not time. I mean, I'm on set all day from the moment I get there till and so there's no much point in leaving. I try and block everything out. I stick my earphones in and just listen to music and try and kind of keep the world out so I can concentrate.
Yeah.
Because there's so many distractions. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many. And also the fact is, I've been doing these movies for 10 years, but I've been acting for. Oh, God, it's so long now. That I know the crew intimately, I know all the crews intimately, so there's always something to talk about, saying, hi, how's your wife, how's things like that, so I have to kind of block, I can't, it's lovely to chat to people, but
Sure.
if I'm concentrating, I've got to kind of, I could talk with people all day and forget that I was making a movie, so.
I mean, in particular, what's so interesting is that you start off, you're an actor, you go, I'm going to be an actor, I'll come in and say, I'll say something that someone told me, I'll stand here, but with a Bond film, this franchise it's such a tremendous responsibility, as I'm sure you know. And also, you're not just an actor, you're not just a producer, but you're also this kind of ambassador to this world. I mean, what are the delineations, and how do you balance all of that?
I think I just learnt to separate it all very early on. I had a very kind of candid conversation with the producers when they wanted me to play the part, and I was being a bit, I was unsure. I didn't know what to do. It's a huge decision to make. And for all the kind of reasons that are very obvious, it's going to change my life. And I was working. It's not like I didn't have a job. I was working all the time. I was choosing the jobs I wanted to do. So I kind of had this very candid conversation. I said, look, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to come on set and pretend to be James Bond. I mean, I don't know how to do that. I mean, bottom thing is, I can't come on and do an impression of someone else. It's just because I'm a crap mimic. I mean, so the worst Sean Connery impression you've ever heard. So
Go ahead.
I just said no. Just let me warm up. For Christ's sake.
Drop it in as a surprise.
You go first. So is my publicist shaking her head? She's heard it. That's the thing. Anyway, so I said to them, if you let me get involved, if you let me have my say, if you let me have an opinion about how we make these movies, then I can do it. I can, and so I did that from the beginning. And I've got a big mouth, and I just kind of, basically. But I think that's what's given me the kind of the wherewithal, because you had to learn things. But I very much kept everything apart. Like filming's filming, and when I'm filming, I keep the world out. And then we get to press, and they were all terrified I wasn't going to do any press because I had this sort of reputation that I don't like talking to the press, and stuff, which obviously I don't. But but it's
Who does?
I mean, it's just rubbish. But I just said I'll do everything. I'll do everything I can. I'll fly wherever you want me to go. And so I think there was a sort of huge sigh of relief that I actually kind of wanted to involve. But I thought if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it full on. So there's no point in turning up and
You don't want to lazenby it,
Or Roger say. Look, but I did think at the time, I was like, if it's one movie, it's one movie. There you go. But I've got to make it the best I can.
Well, there was an interesting thing that was happening in film at that time, where a lot of tentpole characters were being presented much more human, and I think that's why I loved the first movie that the Casino Royale. It's the same thing with Batman Begins. It was like they took these characters that were so ridiculously over the top, and they said, okay, if it seemed like they said if these characters were a little grittier and more human, what would they be?
I think it might be post 9/11. I mean, it might be it might be something about that sort of reality of things, and the fact that the world is fallible, and that there's not just, you can't just have sort of superheroes that just that are. It's a simple, easy thing to save the world, because the world suddenly got much more complicated.
Absolutely.
So as it has done over the past couple of days. So.
Yeah.
So I don't know. A number of things. I don't know how else to have done it, though. Really, I mean, I only know one way to act, which is to sort of. I don't care how big the movie is. It can be as the biggest tent-peg movie there is. It's got to have a kind of central core of reality. It's like Independence Day. It's one of my, it's a great movie. But Will Smith is real, and it's
Jeff
like
Goldblum's
and
the realist. He's the cable guy.
Yeah, he's the cable guy. I mean, it's kind of, and that's what drives the movie. It's not the special effects and everything are great, but it's actually that's not what drives the movie. What drives the movie is that those relationships and all of those things that make it. So I think that you just got to apply that rule when you make any movie, but certainly this kind of movies.
Yeah.
Plus, you had to go from invisible Aston Martins to sort of go, oh wait, we got to reground this thing. We're getting a little moonrakery.
But I think that sort of sets you up to come back around and be able to surprise people with something that's interesting and different. When it kind of goes off the rails a little bit, you can bring it back.
For me, with you playing James Bond, and I'm a big fan of the franchise, and the moment when James Bond bursts through the drywall when he's chasing that guy in that parkour chase, that's amazing. Martin Campbell did an amazing job at that.
Yeah.
But when you burst through that wall, I'm like, oh, okay, this is James Bond. This is a gritty guy that just will use his muscle to just do things that he needs to do.
That was a really conscious decision. It was a very kind of, that scene was a conscious decision, obviously, and that stunt coordinator came up to me and just said, I think he said, because Sebastian, who's the parkour guy who's doing all the fancy flips and things, are like, oh, I can't do that. So he says, why don't you just burst through the wall? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. That's just like me. But I always want to kind of, and I kind of think we have done now. I like to think we have is that I've slowly kind of wanted to sort of bring the little touches back in. I was given a blank slate with Casino, which was a real privilege, and the fact is we had to kind of wipe everything out, all the kind of older jokes, because Mike Myers had stolen them all and done them brilliantly. And it kind of had he had sort of wrecked it, but brilliantly wrecked it. I'm a huge fan of those movies, but you couldn't do those jokes without kind of thinking about Mike Myers.
Right.
It's a bit like trying to do a film about King Arthur without thinking about the Holy Grail. It's like it kind of becomes almost impossible because everything's so silly. But we always wanted to sort of bring them back in, and hopefully, with Spectre, we've kind of managed to kind of marry the two. There's sort of grittiness, but there's plenty of cuff shooting and tie straightening and stuff, all that stuff, which I'm a massive fan of. So
it's great. Spectre, I have to say, Spectre, I loved Spectre.
Oh, no, thank you.
It was like it was your treat for going along with all of these movies. You're like, oh, they're getting there, and then boom, oh, hey, it's our old friends, Q, M, Moneypenny.
That's already seen it twice.
Have you?
I have.
Nice.
I have.
Very
Listen,
good.
not to freak you out.
Yeah.
Not to freak you out. Matt actually did wear Bond shoes on his wedding.
Oh,
I wore some Crockett and Joe's. They're a great shoe.
Oh yeah,
they're great shoes. I'm wearing some right now. These are great. These are great shoes.
Did you wear these for him?
These are the Snowdens.
Did you wear these?
You have these in black in the movie, and
Which one was?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that's I wore those in Skyfall. In fact, I'm in a tank. There's a scene underwater towards the end. And I wore those, for like a week in a tank, and I still have them today. And they're nice, the nicest shoe, even though they were soaked for like a week. They're beautiful, and they molded to my feet. So they're like, I got them.
See, this guy gets.
I take the good stuff away. I don't need the other stuff like the cars and the suits. I don't need that. Just the
shoes and watches
the wet shoes is what.
Those are practical things that you can use.
Let me
in life.
ask you this: Do you keep a couple Tom Ford suits in the closet?
I invariably do, but I don't have that big a closet, so you can only keep so many. And I tend to put some weight on after I finish the movie, so it's all a bit depressing. So about 6 months later, when I got to put it on, I go,
Yeah, I was reading about your regime. It was just like 5 to 6 days a week of exercise and working out, and really like it's a several month long process.
Well, it kind of got worse on this one because we're doing this big fight in the middle with Dave Bautista, and we rehearsed it for 6 weeks. We built basically it takes place through all these railway carriages, and so we built the railway carriages in a rehearsal studio, and Dave and I just basically worked through every day. Kind of an hour a day.
What can we break with each other's body?
Exactly. So and it grew and grew and grew. That was the great thing. But you had to kind of restrict it. But I did a scene with him, and he picked me up and threw me against the wall, and I said, "That's great, Dave, but do it a bit more." And why I said that, I have no idea.
He's a very capable man.
He's a very capable man. He didn't, and it was kind of my fault. And I went one way, my knee went the other, and my ACL just went ba-dong. So I thought that was kind of going to be the end of shooting, but actually it wasn't. And I was one of those lucky people that didn't. Some people have ACLs and their knees swell up like kind of. I didn't swell up. My knee was in great shape. I've been working out. So and I got a physio on set constantly. So in fact, my workout became twice as long because I had to kind of do workout and then do a half an hour physio every day to try and keep it. But the alternative was to stop shooting for 6 months, and I was just like, forget it. Just like, I'll do anything. Just shoot me up. Just we got to get this done. Yeah.
Like an NFL quarterback. Give me some cortisone.
Whatever it takes. Now I understand.
What do you feel like? When was your very first? When did you first start working? Was it like 91, 92?
Yeah, exactly. Then, yeah. And I went straight into movies. I mean, I was at 3-year drama course at a place called the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, which is it's steered towards theatre. It's not really, we did one like TV workshop every kind of month or so, which was some old camera, which is like so. And so I'd never been on camera before, and I got a Warner Brothers job in Zimbabwe with Morgan Freeman and Stephen Dorff. And next thing I'm on a movie set, and there's people kind of patting my head with powder, and I'm like, I mean, it was kind of incredible. And the director, a guy called John G. Elverson, used to come up to me and go, "God, you're so intense. You're so intense." And I was like, I was just scared shitless. I just couldn't move. He's like, "God, you're so still." I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was just like, because I knew how to act on stage. I've always done that, but suddenly you're on camera, and it's like, but apparently just keeping still is good.
I guess it is. I'm so jealous of guys like you in the sense that when I'm nervous or uncomfortable, I just talk really fast, so it's very obvious where I'm at. But you can just if you just stand there with those piercing blue eyes, people are like, "Oh my God, what is he?" So it's like, are you seeing like the Terminator screen in your eyesight, or like what do you?
Like no, it's completely. It's just blind panic or flowers
just
or
white.
something. I don't know. I just. No, I mean, that's sort of, you kind of learn. You learn on the hoof, and I think that's what most people do in acting. Is you get a chance to do it, and then you get a chance to work more, which is really kind of it's because it's a terribly hard profession to get into and sort of actually get anywhere with it. And I just was lucky enough to sort of do some films, and then I got some television in England, which meant that I kind of worked on one project for a lot longer. Then you get used to a camera, then you kind of, it's like you're back to school. You kind of, and you get your confidence, and you remember why you act, and because it's very easy to forget. You kind of, suddenly you think. I mean, I remember coming here in '92 after Power One came out. Everyone was going, "Oh, you should get an LA agent," and I came here. I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have a credit card. So I couldn't get anywhere. I mean, but thankfully I was looked after. And I came and I visited, and I just went, you know what? I don't want to do this just yet. I don't want to kind of try and make it here. I want to try and do what I do at home and try and make movies in Europe. And if this happens, this happens. So it happened slowly for me.
Which I think is probably better, don't you think?
It was for me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think if I'd had massive success or whatever early on, I think I can't think how I would have coped with it. Badly.
I mean,
or really well. I mean, depending which way you look at it.
Do you feel like you needed about 13 years in the business before you got to the Bond part?
I wouldn't. I'd say that that is really kind of. I couldn't have done it without having the experience I've had. I mean, it allowed me to be picky. It allowed me to kind of know that, look, I know I can do this job. If I work hard enough, I can do it. And with the experience I had, I knew that I was capable of turning in this performance and all sorts of things that were confidence. I mean, like I said, I was very scared and very kind of like, very nervous about doing the whole thing. But I had a kind of a background that supported me, and so I was confident in the fact that given the right kind of help and the right kind of cooperation with people, and collaboration, which is what any movie is, but especially a Bond movie is a collaborative process, I could do it. So
was there ever a moment when you first took the job where something was like, oh fuck, what did I do?
Well, yeah, I mean, there were plenty. Like every day for about, I don't think until I finished shooting it.
Was it when they drove you on the boat on the Thames to go to the...
I look, I was shooting a film in Baltimore, and all I can remember is that I'd kind of grown my hair long, and it was like, I never grow my hair long. It's weird. So I had this kind of crappy haircut. And then I had then they kind of like put this suit on me, which was like, I don't wear, it was all wrong, it was just, but it was like in for a penny, in for a pound, it was like I had to do it. They had at one stage, they were like going, we're going to get you in a Harrier jump jet and fly you down the Thames. And I'm like, okay. And then there was a thing where I had to wear a flight suit, and they didn't want me to wear a flight suit. And then there was this whole thing of getting on a boat, and the Marines there, and rightly so, it's a kind of this attack boat that goes at, 80 miles an hour or something stupid. You have to put a life jacket on. I'm like, oh, God, I know what's going to happen, because then it's going to be, he wore a life jacket. It's like, And then the next thing is I'm going down the Thames, and all I can do is just like, I'm just smiling like an idiot, because I'm just thinking, shit, this is great. This is just like, like that. And then of course I just don't look like James Bond, because I'm just like, I'm doing everything wrong. And then we get in, and I kind of get there, and I'm like, oh wow, it's just like that. There's cameras, everyone. I'm like, this is like, just what the hell is going on? Then they hide me and they sort of cover me in makeup again and like that. And I'm like, and I walk, and as I walk out, they play the Bond theme, and I'm like, oh God, this is happening. This is really fucking happening. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what do you mean? Yeah.
And I get in front of the press, and they start asking me really silly questions, so I start giving really silly answers, and that's where it all started to go downhill.
Well, I mean, the hard part is if you're a dramatic actor and not known as a comedian, it's like out of context. People are like no one gives you the benefit of like, maybe he's just fucking around. You know what I mean?
The lesson was learnt that you can't if you're unknown. If you're an unknown, then people take you at face value, and it's not. There's no real room for subtlety. And in fact, you kind of got to lay it down. I'm kind of glad it went like that. I'm glad that I felt like that. I'm glad that I was in that frame of mind, because there was a huge backlash, and I was in the Bahamas. We were shooting, and I got a call from my agent. She said, you might want to look at the internet. And it was like something I don't look at.
She said you might want to?
Well, yeah. She said, because it was like, because we didn't. I mean, we know it was bad then. It was like, no, it wasn't the way it is today. It's just like, you looked on it occasionally. So I did, and I kind of went, oh God, this is bad. This is like, because it was just kind of hate. It was like real kind of, it was hate. It was kind of and it kind of stemmed from the way my performance at this press launch. It stemmed from, the fact that the way I looked, and the fact that how the hell, and the fact that I'd done sort of arty movies, and it was kind of, what the hell was this about? This guy's not qualified. And plus the fact lots of people are peers, and it's like, fair enough, that's like, and I kind of was sort of devastated for about 24 hours, I think. And then I went, what can I do? There's nothing to do. Right. There's nothing. This is like one of those situations I can't control it. I can't stop it. All I knew is at that point, and we were 2-3 months into shooting, I knew at that point we were shooting a good movie. I just knew it. I've done it long enough. I had my instinct. I knew, my instinct. I had good instincts about it, and I just thought, we just got to ignore it. Just get on with it and ignore it. And people kind of ask me today, say, don't you kind of feel good about it now that you've been so successful? What do you want to say to those people? And I'm like, I don't want to say anything. It's like. I mean, I came into this with open eyes, knowing that there was be a huge amount of emotion attached to playing this part, and there was, and it was directed at me, and it was directed at the franchise, and fair dues. It's like people, you grew up watching them, I grew up watching them. I've got big opinions about it. I just was trying to put my opinions into this movie.
But the thing is, I think the lesson is. Internet hate is very superficial, and it doesn't mean anything. And as long as you keep your head down and keep doing what you're doing and care about what you're doing, eventually, because now there'll be someday, when you decide when you're not doing it anymore, people are like, no, don't. You're like, all those people will then flip, and then and so it's.
I think you just got to, and this is just me, and this is my opinion, is I don't go nowhere near the internet anymore.
It's very smart.
I mean, it's just no point. It's it's like, I mean, I love the internet for all sorts of things, but being who I am, it's like, That way madness lies.
Yeah, and it's just it's basically you get sucked down a rabbit hole, and it's mostly negativity. And because performers, we tend to be more insecure than regular people, then you're going to only gravitate toward the things that
of course
kind of poke at your
of
insecurities.
course, I mean you've got to, and if you believe the good stuff, you got to believe the bad stuff. So it's, the thing is, I grew up kind of in a punk was sort of still around when I grew up, and I grew up amongst actors and musicians and artists, and what people thought about them or us, we really didn't give a fuck about.
Right.
Because that wasn't the point. And I think things have changed now. I think there is now this sort of immediate sort of, what do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Is this good? Is this bad? And I don't think that's very creative. I think it's anti-creative. I think as an artist or whatever you are, as an individual, creative individual, you should not give a fuck about what people think.
Right.
You should get on with your stuff, and you should build it and make it the best you can. And when you finally do give it to people, if they don't like it, you should not be knocked back. You should just put power on through and just
Absolutely.
say,
I write dick jokes for a living, and that's how I feel.
hey man, you know what? I wish I could write dick jokes. You know what? I do Bond movies. I'm always trying to think of a good dick joke. So just write a few down for me.
I'll slide you something.
Slide me a few dick jokes.
I mean, it is. I'm sure there's part of you that's like, I just want to do a wacky comedy. Can I just do a dumb wacky comedy?
I don't know. I'm in awe of these guys who can. I met Amy Schumer the other night, who I'm just like, oh my god, she's a goddess. It's a real skill. I come from a kind of much more of a classic background. I'm script based. I can't really. We improvise a lot on this movie, but you kind of have to. You have to have the good script to do it. As far as I'm concerned, you can't just You can't be improvising.
You improvise a lot?
Yeah, just stuff. Just like kind of what Sam would do is he allowed the camera to run, and we just kind of, there are lines in there that we
That guy can make a movie, huh?
Yeah, he's all right. He's pretty good. I mean, look, I was desperate. Skyfall. He wasn't sure about whether he wanted to, but much like me in this situation, someone asked me, immediately after I finished this, said, would you do another one? I was like, I'd rather slash my wrists. 2 days after I'd finished, he got asked after Skyfall, would he do another one? He was like, fuck no, because he finished editing this movie the week before we premiered it. I mean, he was still editing the Saturday before the Sunday, and it's one of the wettest prints there's been. But he's a perfectionist. He won't let it go until he has to let it go, until it's dragged out of his hands. So he's like, he can't think about directing another one. But I knew that if we were going to do Spectre, we had to have him. And I begged him, because it was just, he kind of started something. And plus the fact, we'd got Rafe in, and we got Naomi in, and we got Ben in, and we needed to let them off the hook. We needed to let them off the leash.
Great too.
Yeah.
And I love that. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a bit of stuff in the third act of Spectre that I refer to as Bond's Scooby Gang.
Right.
Like it's the Scooby Gang off to do a
good.
mission.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like it's the best.
Yeah.
I loved it.
You got that then. Good.
I think what must be so rewarding is that, I don't know if you look at your career this way, but you've consistently chosen really cool stuff to work on. So
Not always. There's stuff out there.
Archangel was really cool.
Oh right, yes.
Did you ever see Archangel?
I never did.
It's a really cool story about Stalin and basically
Stalin's son.
Yeah, Stalin has his secret son hidden away that's going to be called upon.
A little like a Boys from Brazil kind of thing.
So it's
but only one of them.
But it's just a really
Boy from Brazil.
So not like it at all.
But Archangel was cool, and my girlfriend and I, my fiance and I love horror movies. So I know. I've gotten called out. I've gotten called out before. I accidentally said girlfriend, and people I don't know, I was doing stand-up, and I was like, so my girlfriend, and people go, fiance! Like, people get really mad. I'm like, oh, fuck, please, stop yelling at me.
It is. It's an American thing, and we don't have it so strongly in England. You're allowed to sort of be boyfriend and girlfriend for a long time. Here, you kind of have to kind of make that commitment. I think it's like...
I don't think so.
If
Really?
you live together long enough here, you're something called a common law.
Yeah, I think it's like 7 years.
That's right.
Your common law.
Yeah.
And I think now,
Yeah.
I think our generation has enjoyed this really luxurious extended adolescence that it used to be.
Is it over?
It's never over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's never,
Thank God.
Is it over?
You're talking like it's all over. Don't depress me.
It's never over. It's never over. It's just different. It's just different. I never thought I would settle down.
A little responsibility is a good thing.
Yeah, but you have kids too. I mean, you know. So how are what do you have some good dad advice? Like what do you love about being a dad?
It's the hardest thing you'll do. It's the hardest. I mean, it's the most wonderful and hardest thing you'll ever do. I just I try and keep what I do away from home. That's a simple thing. There's no room for James Bond in my house.
Right.
You don't walk in and have them play the James Bond.
I'd get laughed at.
Daddy's home, everyone.
British culture would never allow for that.
No.
There's too much shit. Just be like, look at this twat. Like they would never allow.
Well,
that.
people ask me if I write, if I drive an Aston Martin. It's like I just couldn't get away with that. It's just like people are just.
I think people especially especially when you're doing press tours. I'm sure it's very difficult for people to realize, like, no, I'm a person who is separate from this, which is a made-up guy. Like
I get asked it. Especially. God, I've been asked a lot of questions over the past 4 weeks, but one of them is what do I share with James Bond? What there must be, what traits? And I'm like, nothing.
You have the same face.
He kills people for a living, and it's like, he's got a drinking problem, and all the good things about him. And people have been sort of like, I've been saying these things, and people think I'm talking about negatively about him. And I'm like, no, these are good things. They're like, that's what make him James Bond. But a lot of people, some people have been like they're like dumbstruck that I should even. That I'd even say that I'd say I've got nothing in common with him. They're like, well, how? That's wrong. It's like, no, it's not. It's like I'm me.
No, yeah. Daniel Radcliffe's not a real wizard. It turns out either. Like that's a.
Oh
shit! What?
You've got to keep that on the down low. He really is a wizard. Yeah.
We didn't bring that up the other day. He did just evaporate. But I'm kind of curious to know if when people obviously don't know you, or if you get, like shitty questions and it seems like they're not recognizing you, Daniel Craig, as a human being, do you like that, or because it protects who you really are from the world, or do you kind of feel like, but I kind of want people to know who I am?
I don't care. I do and I don't. What I do is I'm very. I like talking with people. I love having conversations. There's a certain thing. There's a privacy I have, which is I've never kept a secret, and I've always been very, I think, consistent with it. And that's I think it's served me well. I keep my private life away from what I do. But I love talking with people as long as we can talk about sort of relatively intelligent things. Then I'm good to go on any subject.
Yeah.
When it gets silly, I kind of tend to shut off, and then sometimes I open my mouth and get myself in shit. But I think I just try and be honest. I just try and I think there's a sort of a lot of people say, the best thing to do is make up a story and keep repeating it, and I'm just not very good at that. If I run out of energy in an interview, that's it. I'm just I'm blank. And then it'll take someone to come in and just sort of bring up a nice subject, or be relaxed like this, and just it's like, we can just talk about anything. We don't have to talk about the film. We can talk about whatever we want.
Yeah. Do you feel like that? It sounds like that through line of honesty works itself into your life, into your performances, into the types of roles you like to choose.
I hope so. It's a goal to aim for. You try and remain honest, straight. I think at the end of the day, it serves you better, because I just think that people when they realize that you're a relatively straight person, they trust, and
sure.
You can. If you say you're going to do something, which is what I do, is if I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it. And if people say they're going to do something and don't do it for me, I don't trust them again.
Right. What was it? I'm so curious to hear what it was like to work with Mike Nichols.
Fabulous. We've known each other for a long time, and he's always been kind of prodding me to going, when are we going to work together? So we actually got the chance to do it.
You and your wife did Betrayal.
We did, yeah, on Broadway. It was, Mike was old and he's a little sick, but he was full of kind of this glint of life in him and I wish we'd done it again. I wish it hadn't been just once. I wish we'd kind of, we'd done it lots of times.
What do you learn from a guy like that?
I don't know. I mean, I just picked his brains about so many things. I mean, I just wanted to know about Catch-22. I wanted to know about, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and what, I wanted to, how did you talk to Burton and Taylor? I mean, what was and he'd have these little things, Burton became very close to him, and Burton said, I don't think, and I agreed, I don't think Burton was ever as good as he was in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but I think it's directly because of Mike Nichols and the way that he directed him in the film. I actually don't think Elizabeth Taylor was ever as good as she was in that. I mean, it's Dustin Hoffman. I mean, just go down the list.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's fun to hear you kind of nerd out over someone, because I know, like when you're used to having people do it to you, to know that there are people in the world.
I was at the Governor's Ball on Saturday night, and there were so many people I was just so thrilled to meet. It was just ridiculous. And I just get so gushy. God, I love you. I'm just like, I'm literally, but I just think you've won a chance. I may never meet them again, and I just want to tell them how fucking great they are.
Yeah.
That's why I look. It's one of the biggest thrills about being in this profession is that you kind of you get to work with some just wonderful people and wonderful actors and wonderful talent, whether they're directors or they're DOPs or they're whatever, and that's kind of why I became an actor.
I remember being at San Diego Comic-Con. Maybe 2010. It was the year you guys were there for Cowboys and Aliens.
With Harrison, yeah.
With Harrison, yeah. And I was moderating the next panel, but I was up in the green room, and then it was just that exactly what you described. I'm like, oh, there's Daniel Craig, there's Harrison Ford, there's Jon Favreau. Like I started getting that. Oh fuck! Oh my god! It was such a. It almost felt like it's not safe to have all these people in one room together. We have to keep them separate.
Like the Coke recipe. You go over there. You go over there.
You guys have to keep you guys as separate as possible. I mean, are you? Do you have a minute when you're working with people that you admire and respect where you kind of get that out of your system so that then you can just focus on being all actors?
Yes, I suppose. I mean, I think the kind of mistake is not to think that people don't like talking about themselves, and they're not. I think to kind of you can get very shy and kind of almost. I mean, I think when I was younger, I used to kind of my shyness used to sort of like just appear just fucking rude because you kind of like you kind of can't. I can't. But and I just sort of learned to come on and get over this. I mean, when I did Road to Perdition with I mean Tom is you've met Tom. He's like
Yes,
the
great guy.
loveliest guy in the world. But Paul Newman, I was just terrified of. And I just started telling him dirty jokes, and he told me dirty jokes, and then from there it kind of blossomed. And it's sort of,
Then we drove race cars together.
Yeah. So, you kind of find a way, and then I kind of, talked to him about racing and about, the movies he's done, and it's just, and then, you kind of open it up, and then it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating talking to those guys.
And then do you go home at night and you're like, my life is weird. I was just staring at Paul Newman all day.
Yeah, it's like it is. But you have to get over it. You have to kind of get on with it. Otherwise, it becomes crippling, and you can't be kind of starstruck on set. What's lovely about Tom and what's lovely about Paul is that they're actors first and foremost, and I am, and that we've got a touching point. You're trying to achieve the same thing, and as long as I think as they see in you as a young actor that you're not trying to fuck them up, or you're trying to just in it for yourself. They're completely accepting.
What is Rafe like?
Rafe Fiennes.
Yeah.
One of the funniest men.
Is he really?
That's what I get from him.
Hilarious. I
Also,
mean, he's tough. I mean, he's tough and
he has the greatest posture of any human being I've ever seen.
like
on
mine.
film.
It's like
I know, I'm hunched over too.
He just stands.
He has that.
When he puts his hands in his pocket and he's just standing, I'm like, how can you stand so fucking straight?
I think it's because he's got royal blood.
He's
been trained.
He's got a royal rod just
straight down his spine.
Straight up.
He is such a great
He's
M.
so great in this movie. I mean, and I think he was always a great actor, but I think as he gets older, shall we say, he's getting better and better.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of think that we're going to see a lot more of Rafe in the future and a lot more wonderful roles, and we're just like to have him as M is just like.
I hope we see more of M because at the end of Skyfall, when I saw that padded leather door in that office, I was like, oh my god, they're in M's old office.
It was like it just went without saying. We had all of those things that we wanted to just slowly drip back in, because they're just they're so evocative.
What's important to you? Like, what things are important to you now? Like, what pieces of yourself do you keep separate that you kind of go back to when you need to decompress?
Family. It's as simple as that. I mean, it's like that's who you miss. I mean, it's an 8-month shoot, the Bond movie, which is 2-3 times as long as any other movie, unless it's Star Wars, obviously. I've
heard of it.
Something.
It's a little thing.
Yeah. Sorry, what was the question? What I was looking at your Chewbacca, your Fowler facts.
This is our guest.
I haven't seen. Oh, it's your guest book.
Everyone who's been on the podcast in the last year has signed it.
Oh, right, okay. I'm not signing it. Where do I go to?
Yeah, you said family is really important. Like,
yeah, it's like it's. I think that that's the hardest thing about doing the film. You're away, and everybody's in the same boat. I mean, everybody on the crew's in the same boat. So you kind of need to, you kind of give up a lot to do something like this. And it's not. I mean, it's like a lot of people who work away. It's like they're in the same boat, but it's like you're just you want to kind of go home and just reconnect.
Yeah,
and just do normal things. Have a kind of. Days that are just. I mean, there's always. I kind of think I'm going to go and put my feet up for a couple of weeks, and it's never like that. You go home, there's 100 million things to do, so it's just the way it is, and that's just normal life, and that's what makes you relax.
Yeah,
that's what makes you kind of breathe and chill out. And
sometimes you get time to play 3 or 4 chords.
Yeah.
Or just cherishing things.
My friends who can play are so charitable when they play with me. Yeah. They really try and help me out, but I can just see them. They're wincing every time
this is your opportunity to fuck with them and play as poorly as possible and be like, huh? I'm getting better, right?
Yeah.
So they have to go, it's great.
Yeah, I'm not that kind of guy.
It's really great. I mean, when you sort of envision your life, did it go the way that you thought it would, or planned, or overall?
No. Look, I mean, there's a desire in every actor to sort of succeed in a certain way. I grew up, genuinely when I was younger as an actor. Fame wasn't the issue. It was just about working. It was just about let's get a job. I mean, and as I said earlier, it's like it's a really tough business to get into, and all you want to do is like earn a living out of it. I made a promise to myself when I left drama school that if I went back to waiting tables, then I'd give up because there was no point.
Right.
I'd waited tables out for like 5 years before going through drama school. I'd done it all the way through that. And I just said, if I had to go back to waiting tables and serve them behind a bar, I've got to go retrain and, I don't know, become a teacher and make my mother happy.
I'm finally proud of you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Your mom was a teacher. Was your mom a teacher?
Yeah, I bet was failing. I failed miserably at school. And I tried to sort of train, and I tried to get, tried to go for, it wasn't even a degree. It was like a kind of just get some qualifications of some sort. And she just was desperate for me to stay in education so that I could at least, if I was going to be an actor, when I failed at being an actor, I'd have something to fall back on, which I think is every parent's kind of, hope. But I didn't. I gave it up. I gave up education very quickly and just cracked on. So
through sheer force of will.
I was arrogant enough to believe that I could do it. I mean, and God, I mean, I don't know I don't have that. I don't feel. I'm not that same person. I don't know where you get that energy from. But I had an absolute focus that I was going to achieve. I was going to work, and I was going to get a job, which I did. And I always sort of just about earned enough money to pay the rent, and just about without sometimes I had to go to the bank and borrow money.
Sure,
but I never had to wait tables again.
Were you a good auditioner?
I'm a terrible audition. I mean, you asked Sam Mendes. He did nearly. I mean, I went to Chicago to audition for the Road to Perdition, and I don't know what the hell I was doing, but I was in a real confused state because I was trying to do a Chicago accent, and you're thinking gangster, and then I got this call saying, "Do not do gangster." They wanted a kind of just a Midwest accent, so it was like lots of R's and lots of kind of like, but it screwed me up because I've been kind of doing Chicago, kind of like, and I was like, and they said, no, don't do that, and it was like, which is probably just as well. So I got there and I started doing this, and it was just like, it sounded like, I don't know, somewhere between Ireland and, I don't know, Toronto. It was like, it wasn't even, it was just terrible kind of, and he just went, stop. I went, I just screwed this up. And he went, no, you've got the job, it's fine.
Oh, that's great.
And literally. And in fact, the original meeting, I'd gone to London to meet him in his office, and he just said, he hadn't told me what it was. No one, it was a secret. And he said, so what I want you to do, I'm doing a gangster movie in Chicago with Tom Hanks and Paul Newman. I want you to play Paul Newman's son. And I just got up and went, right, I'm leaving now. Because we don't need to go any further here. You know I want the job. Whatever you need me to do, let me do. So anyway, it worked out. So, but terrible. I get very nervous. I'm very. I mean, I would happily still audition for jobs now. I mean, I'm actually looking for work.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Just wrapped up a little project. Need the next thing.
Got a little time.
Yeah, it's I mean, you have to learn the lines. You have to kind of get as much of it, soak it up, and try and give as best performance you can. I mean, that's people are sitting there to be kind of impressed, and I get really nervous.
What was the audition process like for Casino Royale?
Well, it was strange because I screen tested for it, and I'd sort of been given the job, but there's a process to go through, which is there's a studio involved, and the studio were like, we need to see him. Mm-hmm. So there was me and 2 or 3 other guys who had to do this. I was supposed to be there for the day, which is sort of literally a day's filming, and there's a tradition of auditioning for Bond is to do the scene from Russia with Love, when he comes into the room with, I can't remember her name, but there's the mirror behind the bed and they're being filmed. And do you remember there's a scene,
Blunt is filming.
he gets on the bed and she's like, is that your gun? He says, and it's like, whatever, I mean, it might be my gun, whatever, I can't remember what the lines are. So we had to do that scene and shoot it, and we actually shot it, and there was a set, and there was an actress, and it was full on days of shooting. And I got to lunchtime, and and this is the God's honest truth. And I finished the scene, so that's good. We're going to get everybody to go for lunch. And I said, I'm not coming back. And I said, if you haven't got it by now, I said, I don't want to do it, and walked off. They gave me the job. Anyway. I said, I can't. How much do you want? I mean, you'll come back and do another scene this afternoon. It's either there or it's not. Anyway, they gave me the job.
Well, that seems like it worked out.
Tatiana Romanoff. Thank you.
There we are. Thank you. You got it. Very good. That's the name of the character from Russia with Love. It's very impressive.
Yeah, no, I know. Anything you say, you're
that's from Russia with Love is my second favorite. Casino Royale is my favorite.
Matt,
by the way.
Matt, just so you know, Matt actually does a separate podcast, 100% True, called James Bonding, where he and his buddy just walk through and they just talk about every Bond film.
We have a guest on who has to watch the movie beforehand.
Okay.
And then we go and we break it down.
Wow.
And we always have...
That's great.
We have a segment called British Off, and it's for who is the most British person in this movie.
Right.
And it's usually whoever the expert is talking to M about diamonds or gold or whatever.
Oh, the guy at the beginning who just comes in and gives it, lays it down. Yeah.
You know, I'm so curious. At the beginning, you said you had a reputation, or somebody, they perceived you as not liking to talk to the press, and I don't think we're really press. We're just dudes.
Yeah.
But
no, we are. I have a hat that says press on.
You do not have a press. But you're just like such a nice, lovely guy. I don't understand.
Who knows? But you know what? I've never tried to hide away from it, so it's fine. I mean, a reputation's a reputation. So what can you do? I mean, it's like, it's better that way. People are maybe sometimes a little nervous when I walk into the room, which is probably not a bad place to start.
You do you. Seems to be working. You're doing fine.
I'm all right. It's okay.
What do you think? Sort of looking ahead. What type when in the next 20 years? What kind of things do you want to do? Do you want to do more theater? Do you want to do more film? Do you want to produce?
Will you get there in a flying car? Tell us about the future.
Will you teleport?
You know what? You made the invisible flying car, whatever. You know what? As long as it works, as long as it's real, it's in the fucking movie. It's like nothing's off the table. Don't do it down.
A TARDIS?
Yeah. Are you a big Doctor Who fan?
Huge Doctor Who fan. Matt has a theory that Bond is actually a Time Lord, which is why he regenerates every so often.
He's a Time Lord.
We don't have that scene though, which is missing.
Don't have the scene.
You think maybe we should shoot it?
There's a scene missing somewhere where Pierce goes, not today, and then it turns into you, and then you just keep moving, and that explains everything. And because he has time travel abilities, that's how he went from George Lazenby, who was the second James Bond, back to Sean Connery.
Of course, yeah.
Because of the time travel thing.
I understand.
He was like, I'm going to time travel to 71
It was enough to tell him the theory. You didn't have to walk him through it.
Complete sense.
Thank you. You're welcome. And then you're watching the finale of the season 4 of Doctor Who, and all of a sudden Timothy Dalton shows up. I'm like, what did I tell you?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes, he was there. It's all connected.
It's all in front of you. Look.
It's all right there the entire time. You knew. But what? How do you still what type
You're
of things?
Such a dork.
Why?
No, this is what happened. He's a Time Lord.
Listen, we couldn't not bring it up.
No, I'm so happy.
I mean, he's sitting right
My
here.
God, and you've got a coat. Who makes that coat?
Billy Reed.
Yeah.
Jesus, wow. Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
Matt, basically, let me tell you something, Daniel.
we need to get out of here.
I think you'll find the doors are quite locked.
Let me just hang on a second. Hang on a second. This is guys.
No, don't leave.
A series of red dots are landing on Matt's forehead as we speak.
Let me just explain. Let me explain.
Hey, look, it's good.
Sure.
They're good clothes.
Yeah.
It's here's the thing. If you want to be a fashionable male, you what do? I'm not going to read GQ all the time. Every couple of years, this guy shows up on the screen and is like, "Oh, okay, that's what you're supposed to wear."
All right, good.
It's a great coat.
Listen,
It is a great
let's
coat.
consider
Great
ourselves
coat.
lucky he's not wearing exactly what you're wearing right now. Like the weird single white female movie line.
No, it's all good.
No, but Matt's
I'm
basically
I'm very touched.
all these
very,
Easter
very
eggs.
touched.
All these Easter eggs. And Matt may feign embarrassment, but you have no idea how gratified he is that you noticed the coat in the back.
I'm amazed. Honestly, I'm amazed that you would even remember what coat you wore
well, because
in the
that's-
Shanghai fight scene.
Because because I spend 6 months of my life before we start shooting picking it out. I mean, it's like this is.
Oh wait, so you give the okay on these things?
Oh, geez, that was my choice to have it in the movie.
You're technically Matt's wardrobe stylist.
You are.
Matt should
I
be
mean,
paying
we've got a
you.
great costume designer, Jani, who I work with very closely, but we, I'm there going. I bring stuff in. I mean, I own that coat, and I
Me
brought
too.
it in. No, but I
We're
own,
best friends now.
No, we are now, yeah. But I owned it before I did the film, and I brought it in and said, "Look, this is she," and we contacted them and they sent us some. So it's like. I try and.
I had no idea. This
is
was
what
happening.
I do.
Dale, thank you. You've really.
And
helped
Crockett
my
and Jones is
wardrobe
the
out.
same thing. That's what I used to wear in real life.
Did you really?
Yep.
God, these are great shoes,
Yeah.
Chris. You got to get a pair.
Keep saying Crockett and Jones.
Crockett and Jones. Crockett and Jones makes
I've
a
said
hell of
another
a shoe.
10 times before the end of this. They may send us some.
You might get something. Just being in proximity.
The salespeople at Crockett and Jones in London were very nice.
Yeah,
That's
they're
where I
lovely.
picked up these boots. And I bought Dory, my wife, I bought her a pair of lady boots. And she was like,
so sweet.
she only let me get them because I was
you bought
buying.
yours,
I was
yeah.
like, if I buy you a pair, can I get these?
That's fair enough.
Yeah, come on.
I'm
But
sorry, I'm just wearing normal street clothes.
No, it's
Look.
like, but these coats, like the coat, and I have the barber coat too from Skyfall.
You do? Wow, those are
because it just is like, what am I gonna do? I need to know what coat to wear. This guy's wearing coats for all occasions.
He does. He has
Yeah.
a variety of environments and climates that he has to. He's got to have evening wear. He's got to have
Yeah.
day wear. He's got to have.
It's good. I don't know how you'd fit a gun in there. That's a very tight fit on this thing, but
It's a little
seems
gun.
to work out.
It's a Walther.
So we had to ease you into a sense of security before we could unleash
I'm
the
sorry.
full
I'm
fandom.
embarrassed for us.
Don't be.
I'm not. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's
But I
totally
was
fine.
also surprised. I was also surprised that you noticed the watch straight away too. I really would feel like you would just be like, "This is a costume. I put this on and I go shoot my scenes."
No, God, not if only, really.
Are you that meticulous with everything?
On this one, yeah, it's Bond. It has to be. I mean,
But not just Bond, with everything. Are you meticulous in life?
less so. I mean, much less so. I don't kind of get. I don't get hung up on things. But when I'm doing this, it's like, this is rare air. This is like, you don't get to make movies like this very often. So, and we've got all these people I'm working with, and I'm just. They're perfectionists, and I've kind of got to raise my game. I want every frame to be remembered. That's how you should make movies.
So from here, how do you want to continue to challenge yourself? Like, what advice do you give to people to like continue to challenge yourself
In life?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you've accomplished,
I'm actually writing a book.
You should write a book.
No, God, no. God almighty.
Call it Craig in it.
Yeah, don't call it Craig.
That's a good title.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Very good. I'm having it.
But
I'll ghostwrite it for you. It'll be hilarious.
That's so good.
he's never going to speak to you again, and I understand.
No, I know that. I know that.
But I, like when you've accomplished so much already, like how do you keep, like what do you keep reaching for? How do you keep challenging yourself? What types of things?
I love acting. I still love acting, and in fact, I think doing this movie has for me been a kind of combination of many things. I mean, it's been 4 movies, but it's been a bringing together. If you'd asked me 10 years ago where I wanted the Bond movies to be at this point, I'd say right here, because it's kind of about the talent that we've been able to throw at this, and it's about the people we've attracted to be in the film. It's the cast is beyond. I mean, I couldn't be, you couldn't choose a better cast if you tried. I mean, and so. I'm going to do some theatre next year. I've got plans to do that in New York. I'm producing some stuff, but I want to act, and I want to act in movies. And whether there's going to be another Bond, I don't know. I mean, I just genuinely don't know the answer to that yet. I'm just trying not to
Heads
think
up,
about
there will be. Whether or not you're going to be in it.
Exactly. I mean, that's the truth, and it's kind of so in that way, I'm kind of very calm about the whole thing because I'm being part of this process. But it's I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know. Anything. Like I said, I'm available. Bar mitzvahs.
I would love that.
Personal
you should show up to
appearances.
one bar mitzvah just for the fuck of it.
Oh, I do.
Just do that kind of weird Bill Murray shit.
Yes,
You just
I
show
get
up
that,
at weird things like Bill fucking Murray was at my bar mitzvah. Like you could be.
you know what?
He does do that though.
He does that weird
Bill
shit,
shows up at parties.
which is wonderful.
He likes a stranger though.
It just seems like he's almost like an alien observer to humanity, and he likes to show up almost as a scientific study just to see what things are like.
Yeah.
But I feel like he ruins the experiment by showing up because he's Bill Murray.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he seems to be enjoying
He
life.
seems to be
doesn't he?
having a great time.
Yeah.
But what's funny is like this, of the coat situation.
Yeah.
My wife wouldn't let me. I try at the wedding. My plan was to put on a white dinner jacket for the
boy.
reception,
Oh, my
and she was
God.
like, "No."
Yeah.
I was like, "Why?" She's
all
like, "You're
one.
not cosplaying as James Bond at the wedding." I
don't
was like,
blame
"It's
her.
just a classy move to put on a dinner jacket."
Oh, did he wear that too? I didn't realize.
I had
Like,
no
you try to play it
idea.
off.
Spectre hadn't even been out yet. How would I have known such
God.
It's a
Your wife was right to kill that.
a? Yeah, I
idea.
know. I get it.
It's a hard one.
Dory's
A
much
white dinner
smarter than
jacket's
me.
hard. I think you have to be in North Africa to wear one of those.
or in the
Nowhere
50s,
else. Yeah.
or in the 50s.
The 50s in North Africa.
Yeah, that's totally
Yeah.
you have to do it. But absolutely, this has been a lovely chat. I really hope you've enjoyed yourself.
I have.
And I mean, anything you want to come back to promote anytime.
Yeah, if you want to come promote
fuck around
Crockett
with
and
us.
Jones.
Okay, we've
Great
come.
shoes.
Great shoes.
Omegas, as he calls them. I call them Omegas. I'm American. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I think this is probably
We're not going to fight about
so
it.
right.
that's for
You
sure.
should fight. Beat the shit out of Matt,
Yeah.
please, just one time. But
One time.
it would be an honor if you would beat the shit out of Matt. Even
I don't want to be beaten up.
yeah, you do. By him, by anyone else, no. But by are you a Dan or a Danny or a Daniel like in life?
Dan or Daniel's good.
Dan or Daniel. Is
Yeah, a
good.
little old for Danny.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work so much. All right. Before we go, anything else you want to plug or say or anything?
Maybe in Sean Connery's voice.
No.
No.
This publicist is wild.
This interview's gone really well.
Still, you really think so?
I'm not going to screw it up now.
I'm shocked that you think that after all the coat talk, I'm happy that you're still happy.
I'm
Could you
very
just
happy.
say hello to my co-host of James Bonding, Matt Gorley? Just say hello.
Matt, hello. How are you? I'll come see
Katie,
you
cut
soon.
that out.
Hey!
Katie,
was
edit
great.
that out. Great, man. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Enjoy your burrito, everyone.
All right.
Now leaving Nerdist.com. Enjoy your burrito.